Hands down, Nintendo won E3. You can't deny it. Let's get into it.
Skip it up and that up.
So look, I know whether it be me or any other YouTube commentator dubs a winner of E3, people get very angry. And I have been very critical of Nintendo in the past before. Alright, so you guys know I'm not a Nintendo fanboy. But the amount of content, gameplay they showed, other developers and hardware manufacturers take note. When you make games, you should show gameplay. And just the sheer breadth of games they had for every taste and palette out there, they destroyed it. They killed it hands down, without question. And that is how you have an E3 presentation. And to be honest with you, I said this on Twitter earlier this morning. There was a time, I know I'm kind of going in a rant early on before getting into the information. There was a time, though, when Nintendo first announced that they weren't doing conventional E3 shows anymore, where I was like, oh, what are they doing? This was like 8 years ago, 7 years ago now. E3 is so important. And I'm sitting here watching these other shows with these over-enthusiastic, probably paid people at these other events at E3, and I'm like, oh my god, this is annoying. Like, I was like, man, I really like that Nintendo has like this pre-recorded show that you just get to see the gameplay. And you just get to see the games, and you just find out information, and you don't hear some idiot hollering in the background. And they kind of predicted where things were going. There were many, especially back then and during the Wii U era, there was many mistakes that Nintendo was making. But one thing they were right about was E3 and how they should change their presentation. And the directs they do, I love them now. They're my favorite thing to watch. And in other news, this shirt is not backwards today. Okay, so everything I gathered for their presentation is a mixture of my own notes and information I got from Kotaku. Their article will be listed below in the description. There's a lot. Okay, first off, they gave a teaser. This was at the end of the presentation, but they gave a teaser that a sequel to Breath of the Wild is in development. That's huge news. That's the first, at least I heard about it. So that's a big thing. The teaser they showed, it was in the art style of Breath of the Wild, but it didn't have any gameplay. But, whatever. Yeah, you know how I feel about when they don't have gameplay, but still pretty big reveal. And I'm sure the game is very early in development, so they just wanted to let us know. And honestly, it was quick enough where it was like, all right, I could tolerate this, and it's a big thing to announce, so fine. And that was at the end of the show. Banjo-Kazooie and Dragon's Quest Hero are the next Smash DLC characters. I'm not really into... I like Smash. I'm not a huge fan of it. I thought it was awesome when they had the Belmont characters from Castlevania in there. But if you're into when they add extra characters to Smash, there you go. Now, this one, I'm sure a lot of people are not annoyed at, but they were looking forward to the game and a little disappointed. But again, my philosophy. I'd rather have a game be done right than a game be done rushed. Animal Crossing is coming out on March 20th, 2020. It was delayed. They need more time to work on it. And again, I'm sure you Animal Crossing fans would rather have a game that's developed properly than has bugs in it. So Nintendo knows how to make a game. They know how to make it right. I'm not personally an Animal Crossing fan, but if you are, you'd rather have the game be delayed so you get a better product. Now, this blew me away. The Switch remake of Link's Awakening, which comes out September 20th. Man, that looked good. The art style looks amazing. It's amazing to hear, because I played a lot of that on Game Boy when I was a kid. And to hear the music reorchestrated, but it's the same music, and to see the art style they went with, and now you can make your own dungeons. Don't know if you could actually share the dungeons online. I don't know if they're making like a Legend of Zelda maker, but you can make your own dungeons, and it looks like it's going to be a fantastic remake. I wanted to go into more detail on some, but there's so many games. There's so many games, and they showed gameplay for virtually all of them. Couple exceptions, but virtually all of them. Cadence of Hyrule, which is from the same developers of Crypt of the Necrodancer, they're actually incorporating Link and Zelda into this game, and it looks interesting. It has kind of like a... I never played Crypt of the Necrodancer, but it seems to be in the same vein as that game. So that's actually coming out next week. Luigi's Mansion 3. Now, I gotta say, I've never been a big fan of the series. I remember trying Luigi's Mansion when it first came out for the GameCube, when the GameCube was first released, and I was like, meh. But they showed off some cool gameplay elements with Luigi's Mansion 3, with the Poltergust 00 that he has, where not only can you suck up the ghosts, but you can also slam furniture around you, body slam the ghosts. It just looks like they added this extra gameplay layer, I should say, that makes it more engaging. So that did catch my eye. They also have another character called Gooigi, who could do things that Luigi can't. He's literally made of green goo. He could go through walls and things like that. And to solve puzzles, you have to figure out who needs to do what, Gooigi or Luigi. They're also going to have a Scare Scraper mode. It's an online co-op mode with up to 8 players where you have to seek out toads and take out ghosts. So it's a really fleshed out sequel to Luigi's Mansion. I'm not like excited for it, but I will play it. They sold me on the trailer with that game. Now, next thing I saw was Daemon X Machinima, which looks like a mech action game. It looks really good. It almost looks like it's too much game for the Switch. But that comes out September 3rd, 2019. The gameplay looked phenomenal. It looked like something you would see on the Xbox One or PS4 instead of on just the Switch. But hey, if they get it to run right, who cares? It looks like it's going to be a blast. They also showed off No More Heroes 3. It's coming out sometime in 2020. They hinted that game was coming at the end of Travis Strikes Again. So if you're a fan of that series, the next game's coming out next year. And we know that Pokemon Sword and Shield are coming, and the Pokeball Plus can be used with those games. It can't be used as a controller, but they're saying that you can take your Pokemon out into the world, and if you do, some good things could happen. I'm not familiar with the series, so I guess that's a plus. I'm not sure. Now, there's also a 3D remake of Trials of Mana coming out in 2020. They're also having a collection of the Secret of Mana series, which is being released today. It's going to have Final Fantasy Adventure for the Game Boy, Secret of Mana for the SNES, and it's going to have the original, not the remastered version, Trials of Mana in that trilogy. So if you want to just get into that series, you can now. You can literally pick it up on the eShop today. Dragon's Quest XI's Definitive Edition is coming out September 27th. They said it was coming out for the fall for a while now, but now it actually has a date. And here is something that shocked absolutely nobody, but it's still amazing that it's actually happening, and I really need to see how this game performs on the Switch console. The Witcher 3 is coming to the Nintendo Switch. They didn't give a solid date. I am sure they're probably trying to optimize the living hell out of it because it's running on a mobile Tegra X1 processor, but it is arriving later this year. I have this feeling it's going to get delayed, but I'd rather them delay it than have the game come out running at 15 frames a second. If you have to delay it, CD Projekt Red, it's fine. Now, this was totally out of nowhere. A new Contra game, Contra Rogue Core, is coming to the Nintendo Switch September 24th, and it looks good. Sometimes it's kind of isometric, some gameplay they showed. It was behind the back, some gameplay. There's different characters with different abilities. It looks really, really good. And today, there's going to be a Contra Anniversary Collection. So if you want to play the older Contra games, Nintendo just nailed it out of the park today, man. I mean, both Contra Rogue Core and the Contra Anniversary Collection, I'm sold on both of them. They look fantastic. And they're remaking Panzer Dragoon for the Switch. That originally started on the Saturn back in the day, and they're remaking it for the Switch, and it also looks phenomenal. That's coming out sometime this winter. I'm gonna guess 2020. They just said this winter, though. And here's all the games they have in the sizzle reel. I wrote all of these down, so if any of those games didn't interest you, something here probably is. Spyro Reignited Trilogy. That was another worst-kept secret that was coming to the Switch. Hollow Knight Silksong. I think it's a sequel to Hollow Knight, or maybe it's kind of like an add-on, but either way, it looks really good. Ni no Kuni, Wrath of the White Witch. Try to say that 3 times fast. Minecraft Dungeons actually looks surprisingly good. The Elder Scrolls Blades, free-to-play game with microtransactions from Bethesda. Yay! My Friend Pedro, which I can't wait for, that comes out in like 9 days as of me recording this. It's kind of like, almost looks like it's like a 2D version of Fear with bullet time and really action-packed. Can't wait for that game. Doom Eternal is coming to the Switch, and I believe it's the same release date as the rest of the platforms, November 22nd, 2019. That's also going to be amazing. The Sinking City, which looks like it's going to be a survival horror game, actually looked pretty good from the little amount of footage they showed. Wolfenstein Youngblood, which is coming out July 26, 2019 for the Switch. Dead by Daylight is now coming to the Switch. It's been out on multiple platforms, PC, PS4, Xbox One. It's coming to the Switch September 24th, 2019. Alien Isolation is coming to the Nintendo Switch. One of the best survival horror games maybe ever, but definitely one of the best of this generation is coming to the Nintendo Switch as well. I'm sure a lot of people are psyched about that. Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles Remastered Edition, another great RPG from Square Enix, is coming to the Nintendo Switch. Dragon Quest Builders 2. I'm sure some people are psyched for that, just not my cup of tea. Stranger Things the Game, another Netflix tie-in, is also coming to the Nintendo Switch. Just Dance 2020. Boy, I can't wait for that, but it is coming to the Nintendo Switch. It's a popular series. May not be your cup of tea or my cup of tea, but it's very popular. It's another good addition for the Switch, even if we're not going to play it. Catan, which is a strategy game, is also coming to the Nintendo Switch. New Super Lucky's Tale. The series actually began on the Xbox One and Windows PC, is now getting its own iteration on the Nintendo Switch. There's also Dauntless, which is developed by Epic, which many say is like a free-to-play Monster Hunter with an edge. That's also coming to Nintendo Switch. And last but not least, coming out late June this month is New Super Mario Maker 2 for the Nintendo Switch. And there you go, man. Let me just say, I kind of said this at the beginning of the video, but you can despise Nintendo. You could think Nintendo Switch is the worst console ever developed, which I'm not really sure how you could think that, but okay, that's your thing. But objectively, in terms of content, in terms of showing gameplay, in terms of showing a bunch of games, they won E3. Like, I know they showed the Final Fantasy remake at Square Enix. I saw that, and I'm not saying there wasn't other good games shown at other presentations, but none of them come close. None of them come close to the amount of content, to the amount of games, the scope of games that Nintendo showed during their presentation. They didn't just cater to first-party fans, or they didn't just cater to people who just wanted first-person shooters or hardcore, mature third-party titles. They gave you everything. If you didn't care about Luigi's Mansion 3, you cared about Contra Rogue Core. If you didn't care about Super Mario Maker, you cared about The Witcher 3 coming to the Switch. It just goes on and on and on. That, when I want a presentation from any company, okay, whether it be Sony, Microsoft, Nintendo, EA, Square Enix, Bethesda, you name it, this is what I want to see. I want to see games, I want to see gameplay, I want content, and I want a scope of games. And Nintendo nailed it out of the park. Nintendo has failed miserably before. Remember back during the Wii days where they were dancing like idiots on stage? Those were painful to watch. Nintendo learned a lot of lessons, and this year especially, they gave us a hell of a lot of content, and it makes me very excited to be a Nintendo Switch owner. This is Rachel Review Tech USA signing out. Have a good one.